So what happens when you deny the existence of your emotions? You try to stuff them down. You try to get rid of them. You try not to deal with those emotions when they come about. That's what we're going to talk about today on episode number 32 of The Relaxed Male. Hello and welcome to Relaxed Male, a podcast that helps men change their relationship with themselves. I am your host, Brian, and I am a men's life and mindset coach who is here to help you understand that you don't have to suffer at your own expense. You can live your dream, and I encourage you to set, then pursue your goals. So join me as I change the mindset and attitudes of men so that they can be the leaders of their families and their destinies. Amen. Hello and welcome to Relaxed Male. I want to thank you for allowing me the access to your podcatcher and coming into your listening habits for each week. This show comes out every Thursday around 3:00 p.m. Central Time. So get it everywhere around that time. and we are available. This show is available on just about it should be available on all podcatchers out there, except for like the ones that are very exclusive, like Luminary and Himalaya and things like that. I don't think I'm on Himalaya because I don't think China really attests to my line of thinking all that much. But if you are ever interested if you've been listening to this show for a while and you want to be able to be notified when a new episode comes in and is available, you can always do so by going to relaxedmale.com/subscription. There you can actually subscribe to the show through a whole myriad of ways. Or if you happen to be using a different app, I've set it up to where you can go to relaxedmale.com/overcast and it'll take you to the Overcast page, /Castro, same thing. But you can go to, relaxedmale/Apple or iTunes, and they will both take you over to the Apple Podcasts app /Google will take you to the Google Podcast /Spotify, take you to Spotify /Android. If you are an Android user, but you are on one of those where you don't get to get you don't use a particular app, then this is a means of being able to just do within a couple clicks, subscribing to a show, depending on what your app is, like Podcast Addict, things like along those lines. /Stitcher, if anybody still uses Stitcher, iHeartRadio will take you to iHeartRadio. /Pandora, if you want to listen to me over on Pandora, /Deezer, Pocket Cast, /Castbox, Player FM, even Swoot, which has now been turned into Pod Hero, Radio Public, /Breaker, /Bean, Good Pods, which is just a new one I've added just last week, I believe, which is kind of a like social media podcast, podcatcher client. You might check that out, /Bullhorn, or if you want to listen online, you can also go to /Podchaser. Now, if you do like the show, I'll ask it again, but definitely go over to podchaser.com /relaxedmale and leave a rating and review for this show. So, but anyhow, I'll let you listen to this and see if it's worthy of a rating and review, because this week we're going to be talking about denying your emotions. But before we actually get into that, we're going to be doing the question of the week. Got the question of the week this time, and it's actually by an actual person this time, which is amazing. The guy's name's John, and this one is kind of surprised me. But it's a good question. And it asked, dude, I thought this was a podcast that was supposed to help dads with their sons. when are you going to start helping those dads with their sons? And what I got to say about that is I'm kind of doing that right now. I guess I'm looking at it as the Mr. Miyagi way of we're getting the base skills down right now. You got to learn how to wax on and wax off and sand the deck and paint the fence and paint the house and things like that. And before you can really start applying to helping your son, because in all reality, the line of thinking that to be able to help your son, you have to help yourself first. You have to have your priorities straight. And those priorities for me are God, me, family, friends, the rest of the community. And the reason why I am second is because I have to put my mask on first before I can help my family. So I have to have myself first. I have to make sure that I'm taken care of. I have the energy needed to be able to, and the knowledge needed to be able to help and assist my family in the ways that they need me to do. So I have to be second, which sounds very counterintuitive. A lot of people are like, you should be giving everything to your family. Families should be before you put your family before yourself. And that's not really a good thing to do, because you actually end up sacrificing yourself instead of helping your family. And that does you no good. It does your family no good, because eventually you are burnt up. You've got a bad case of burnout. You're frazzled. You start having other problems cropping up. So I am going to be going into episodes down the road that are going to be more directed towards dads helping their sons. It's just right now there are a lot of little details that really need to be addressed and really need to be looked at before we really start diving deep into helping dads getting their dads to help their sons and to be able to connect with them more. But one of the things we have to understand are emotions, and that's what we're going to be talking about this week. Emotions are one of those things that, and it's not just a man-specific thing. Women are very much, in a way, do this also. But most men, we realize we have emotions. We feel happy. We feel sad. We feel all the range of emotions that a human being is able to feel. But the problem that we run into a lot is that a lot of times we will take an emotion and we associate it as something bad. Maybe something happened to us when we were younger, and we feel this particular emotion and say hunger, say hunger. Or maybe we feel scared. Maybe our parents had their own emotional issues, and they fought it out with each other all the time. Maybe went through a divorce and there were something that, happened that really kind of stuck in the front of your brain. And when we have anything that closely resembles the emotion that is associated with that thought, we really try to start shoving that emotion away. We try to start denying the access to that emotion and allowing that emotion to actually live, to thrive, to build, and to become what it was supposed to be, which is in all reality a learning experience, and allow your mind, your memories to be colored with that particular emotion. We start becoming afraid of an emotion. There are times that we may had something that was horribly sad happen. I've had grandparents die. Heck, even when my dog Cricket died, just tore me up that I lost my basset hound. Cricket was my walking buddy, and she was there. She was always made it. It was so much fun whenever I got home, because she was the most worked up and excited to see me come home after a week of being away. You always smiled because there was somebody who was extremely happy to have you, and the loss of someone can really, really affect you. And we tie that sad emotion to that bad event that happened in our lives. And so we start trying to deny it. We start pushing down. We start resisting. We start fighting against what that emotion can be. Now, I know, yes, guys have a certain level of stoicism already, I want to say, bred into us. It's part of our natural being to have a level of stoicism. And that's actually a good thing, because you don't need to be gripped in emotion in the moment of a battle. You don't need to be. When we make decisions on emotionally based decisions, we always make the wrong decisions, no matter what. Just look at the Patriot Act right after 9/11. We should have sat back, and before we do anything with that Patriot Act, we should have let ourselves set for 3-6 months and let the emotion work itself out. So, and then decide that on what we want to do, because we would have made a completely different set of choices that probably would have been a lot better and a lot less restrictive, but we didn't. So we now have the inability to see our families off at the airport. We don't have the ability to greet our loved ones when they come off the plane. We have a lot of other issues that come with the events that came from an emotional decision, knee-jerk decision that came right after 9/11. But we have that stoic side. And so it's not that we should not allow stoicism to happen, because stoicism does a lot of good if we're able to separate our emotions and process those emotions at a later date, where with our wives or with our good friends, we can then process those emotions and be stronger for it. It's a great skill to have, is to be able to just to take that emotion, that whatever it is that's going on, set it off to the side and say, I'm going to deal with you here once I get the immediate problem fixed. And so these guys are able to do that. But what happens if you keep shoving it away? You don't want to deal with it. You simply don't want to deal with it. You have to deal with something. It's like it's a responsibility that you deal with it. And my kids will tell you, when it comes to responsibility is a lot like a bull. You can sit there and you can dodge it from time to time, but sooner or later that bull is going to come up and he's going to put a horn in your butt. So it's good to actually address emotions as they come about, or at time that is soon as possible. And we don't a lot of times. When we start trying to deny our emotions, we start trying to keep our emotions from actually being something as wonderful and beautiful as they are. Even, the negative emotions, sorrow and grief and things like that. Those are always all wonderful emotions. Yeah, they're messy, but that's just part of the human experience, is to experience the ups and the downs. They're peppered all throughout our life, day to day. You may have one moment where you're happy, one moment where you're sad. And when it comes to emotions, we try to avoid the negative and the negative labeled emotions. And they don't work when you try to avoid them, when you try to dampen them, and you try to suppress those particular emotions. And there's a lot of reasons why you don't want to resist your emotions, because one, you're just, when you deny, first off, emotions are basically the color for your memories. Even when you, say you go on a camping trip, you have just the perfect camping trip. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. It's just that right temperature. The nights get just cool enough that you can actually use a sleeping bag. The fire lights up immediately. You cook the steaks or hamburgers or hot dogs are all to perfection. You have the most incredible amount of types of s'mores ever made, where the marshmallows just toasted is just slightly nice and golden brown, instead of being, the flaming torch that we usually run around with like we're an Olympic torch. If we have all these wonderful occurrences, that in all reality, that camping trip is one really boring camping trip. It doesn't stick in your head nearly as well. You may think back on it and go, well, that was a good camping trip, but that's about all you will think of. Think back in your life, all the camping trips or family vacations, all the good things that you have in a memory of being good. What do you actually see in there? That usually is something that actually is something goofy happened, something out of the ordinary, something that was unfortunate. I've told the story a couple of times where I went camping. We used to go down to this place outside of New Braunfels to go tubing. In Texas, we take car tire inner tubes, which they're still around. They just aren't used for car tires anymore. But we'd take these inner tubes and we would go to the Guadalupe River. And we would hop in, and this is a beautiful spring-fed river that is just colder than, you don't want to try to get with a girl when you're in the Guadalupe, because you try doing anything, she's going to laugh at you later on, because it gets cold. It shrivels things. So, but you don't want, whenever I went to the Guadalupe to go tubing one time, we stuck our tent. I swear, I think we stuck it right in our front door, right in a patch of stinging nettles. Couldn't find them. I mean, we'd look down there and there was nothing but, it looked like nothing but grass and stuff. I still couldn't tell you what a stinging nettle looks like, but it never failed. You would walk in and all of a sudden do something, and you'd walk out and nothing. And then about a minute and a half, 2 minutes later, all of a sudden your toe or your ankle or your top of your foot or the side of your foot or some part of your foot would start just kind of tingling, and that tingle would grow, and it would grow even stronger and stronger until eventually you felt like your foot was on fire and you couldn't tell what in the heck was going on, and you don't know where you picked it up at. But as we realized where the stings must have come, we moved it over. But that was one of the funniest things, is because it would never fail. We would walk through it, and then 5 minutes later, the folks that were using the tent to change or whatever, they'd come walking out, and 5 minutes later, you'd see them reaching into the cooler to grab ice to put on where they brushed up against that stinging nettle. It's always been funny. Maybe you lost your fishing equipment on the interstate. There's all these things. And as people, there's a reason we have the saying, well, don't worry, we'll look back on this, and one day we'll look back on this and laugh. And it's because, those stressful, horrible things that happen to us are actually some of the best memories that we have. The time where you go out to go hunt and you see the perfect elk and you're right there, but he just knows exactly what the range is. And anytime you try to get closer to him, he's just right outside the range. No matter where you go, he's just right outside the range. You can't get close to him, but you get a good look at him, but you never are able to shoot him. There's those things, those stories. It's what makes the story. We use emotions to color our stories, to color our memories, because that's what we're telling when we tell stories of our camping trips or our latest fishing expedition. There's always some type of struggle that we have to get through, and that's what makes us interesting, makes us the most interesting people in the world, are the people who've got the best stories. And to have those stories, you have to have emotions, and you have to talk about the feeling of the story. So emotions are part of who we are. So we have to accept that we are going to feel happy. We are going to feel sad. We're going to feel angry sometimes. All these emotions, even the ones that I think are completely useless. They're not useless if an emotion serves you. And denying an emotion does not serve you in any way, unless you're just holding it off and so that you can process it later. If you don't process an emotion, a lot of bad things actually happen. One of the biggest things is that we don't grow. When you are trying to become the better man, which if you're listening to this show, that's one thing you're trying to do. You're trying to understand yourself so that you can become the better dad. You can become the dad that your son desperately wants you to be. He wants to be able to have someone he can relate to, especially when they're in the teenage years. The cocktail of hormones is swimming through their system. Not only causes them to walk around with a face full of zits and actual boner, but they're also needing someone to help guide them and to direct them into how to address the emotional ups and downs of the teenage life. And the only person who can actually do that is the person who's been through that before. Now, it doesn't do any good if you're cutting off those lines of communication and you're always getting angry at a teenager doing stupid teenager stuff. To become better and to be able to grow and develop, we have to allow our emotions to live. And I say emotions act kind of like a living thing, but their lives are so short lived. If you were to sit back, it may feel, say you had a grandmother die or, your dog died, and you are just swimming in a pool of sorrow and you don't know what it is you really, need to do. This feeling of self-pity is such a draining sensation, that you really, it needs to just get over. And so you find something to help deaden that emotion, deaden that feeling, and get it out of the way. But, because when you're sad, it almost feels like you're drowning in sorrow. And not that you're drowning your sorrow, but you're drowning in sorrow. And because you feel that, it seems like that emotion is never ending. Wake up one day and you're sad. You're pretty much sad all day. You wake up and you've lost a parent. You find out that your parent died suddenly, maybe in a tragic car wreck, or maybe they just had a health problem that went unchecked and they passed suddenly. Well, you're going to be sad and you're going to grieve for them. And that grief is going to go for days on end. And you're going to may even have it, be down and be a little blue and all that, or may even have some down outright, depression going on. But that's not going to last forever. Especially if you stop trying to resist that emotion, allow the grief and the sorrow to bloom, and just give yourself time to actually be with that emotion. Examine that emotion, in an honest and curious way. You'll see that it's nothing that is really going to hurt you. It's just because emotions are nothing more than a vibration. And if we allow that emotion to actually just be and to grow and to bloom and to run its life, you'll actually find that, it may be a couple days at the longest, but it's not going to last nearly as long. You'll witness that emotion to well up, and it'll have a full, I would almost call it a bell curve style, where it gets up and it gets really intense, and then it's intense for just a very short bit of time, then it drifts off. And goes back down to the amount of emotional strength that it had before. And when we allow those emotional blooms to happen, whether it's happiness, sadness, or whatever, if we allow that to happen, we actually become a stronger, better person, because we realize that, hey, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry. Just allow that emotion to be. We can look and examine and understand ourselves better. When we understand ourselves better, we grow, we become a better person, we become stronger, because we are, able to cope. We develop healthier, better coping mechanisms. Another reason why denying yourself an emotion to be, more full, allowing them to just not allowing them to be what they're meant to be, which is a means to color our lives. We also lose the ability to actually relate with others, because you're going to have someone who is happy or someone who is sad. And if you're dodging sadness all the time because you had a horrible experience with sadness, or what you perceive to be a horrible experience with sadness down sometime in your past, you're not going to be able to relate with that person, because one, it's them talking about sadness or them experiencing sadness is going to resurrect the sadness that you're dodging. So you're not going to want to even be around someone who is sad. You're going to want to avoid that. And because of the avoidance, you're not going to be able to as effectively relate to someone as if you were actually, aware and present with what emotions you have. Now, a lot of people actually turn to addiction when they are denying an emotion. And this is a dangerous outcropping of where an emotion, denying yourself an emotion can cause a lot of very serious problems. Now, a lot of times if we're uncomfortable with being bored, or we're uncomfortable with with stress, or we're uncomfortable with being insert any emotion that you are uncomfortable with, we turn to some type of substance to dampen that feeling. So instead of allowing, say stress is building up. So you tell yourself all the time that you can't handle stress. Well, you're going to find a way to dampen the feeling of that stress. And to do that, a lot of us turn to food. Yes. And I'm not saying food is an addiction, but the effects that food has can replicate what an addiction does, in that it takes and it stuffs down an emotion. If all of a sudden you're a stress eater and you're weighing 300 pounds, you may feel horrible that you just went through and ate a whole box of Oreos, followed that and washed that down with a bag of chips. And now you're rooting around in the refrigerator for some ice cream. There's a reason why you are wanting to avoid that emotion. And the sad thing is that the effects of addiction, like overeating or even alcohol or something like heroin or any other, or meth or something like that, those don't help you feel good. In fact, you are running away from something that is very temporary and running into something that makes you feel horrible for a longer amount of time. So it's kind of a self-defeating case. You would rather feel, if you overeat, bloated and lethargic and can't stand to look at yourself in the mirror, instead of looking at what the cause of the stress is and addressing the root cause of what the problem is. Because you don't want to address the emotions, you're now pushing over 300 pounds. You're starting to, you're really falling apart. You're developing diabetes. You're developing and knee pain and back pain and all the other ailments and maladies that come about with being overweight. Same thing with alcohol. A lot of people will use alcohol as a means to just kind of deaden the day. I had a rough day. I had a bad day. There's so many emotions that were mixed up in that word. I had a bad day. Well, what does that really mean? And a lot of times we don't want to even worry about what that bad day was. It was just a stressful day. It was, something was about that day was to a point where it's like, I don't even want to deal with it anymore. I just want to get drunk. And so what do? You get drunk. All of a sudden, those emotions that are needing to live their life have been subdued. They've been drowned just a little bit. They've been dampened to where they're not demanding their processing, demanding to be processed and demanding to be felt. And so you're sacrificing a bit, maybe 2, 3, 4 hours of processing time just to sit back and unwind and go through your day and allow those emotions to well up and to examine them. You're now going through, you just burnt through maybe $50, $100 worth of alcohol, depending on which bar you go to. And you wake up in the morning feeling like a trucker has ran over you a couple, 3 times. Just kind of, did I run over something? Yep, we sure did. And off you go. You're going to have, you feel you've got that nasty taste in your mouth, and your head feels like it's about 3 sizes too big, and you smell the pork chops that you made last night, and it's, that old pork chop grease is just not really smelling that good. And you just, your stomach's just doing flip flops, and you're looking for the aspirin and the Rolaids at the same time. You've got that horrible feeling that you feel afterwards. And if you were to be truly honest with yourself, it's not worth, a few hours of feeling an emotion. And that's if it's a long one. Most of the time, emotions only last just a few moments. Denying your emotions also causes that emotion to grow. And that's what happens a lot of times with people who have a minor addiction that eventually gets to something larger. A lot of times alcoholism will get to the point where, you may be a functioning alcoholic, but eventually you take that functioning alcoholic and it becomes just a teetotaler. or maybe someone goes from one type of drug and then progresses to trying several others. Usually they find one that they really like and they stick to it and they just use it to the point of excess. Those things are results of that emotion not being denied its ability to be felt. And because of that emotion actually gets bigger, it starts to resonate and become more powerful. And so you have to work harder to actually fight against that whole emotional, tidal wave that's been built up. And eventually the dam's going to let loose, and you're going to either have, to face the facts and deal with the bull that you have been dodging, or it's going to end up causing more problems to you internally with what the ravages of whatever drug addiction or alcohol addiction or food addiction or porn addiction or television. Maybe you use the television to deal with the emotions that you don't to stuff down the emotions you don't care about. I had my stepmother for a long time. Back before her and my dad got a divorce, you could tell something wasn't right because she just watched a lot of television. Not any particular, or it was a particular type of show. She wanted to watch the shows that took her back to when she was younger, when she was happier. There's a lot of things that were going on family wise, and she was able to go back to a time when she was younger and life was more of a dream. And, we all think that back in the good old days. Well, she was using the television as that instead of addressing the problem at hand and stuff. She would just turning to Nick at Night and watching Car 54. Where Are You? F Troop, Dick Van Dyke Show, My Three Sons, all these old 60s and 70s shows that were really popular back when she was a little girl. And because you don't address those emotions, you actually also start to learn to, or figure out that you are becoming stuck. And when you're becoming stuck, you're not progressing to the next levels. You're not becoming a better person. You're just busy dodging an emotion, a vibration that you feel all throughout your body is what you're avoiding. And you don't want to you don't care about becoming the better person. You don't care about achieving your goals. You're just more concerned about, I don't want to feel that happiness. You may be someone who you don't feel like you should be worthy of feeling happiness. And so you stuff down any joy that you may have. Maybe sorrow, grief, anger is another one that a lot of people actually, you may have feeling some resentment towards your spouse. Maybe stuff have happened, and you're not having your emotional. You don't believe you're having your emotional needs met. You're not having enough sex, and you find out that all those headaches she's having are just excuses to not have. And so you are starting to resent that instead of trying to come to an understanding of what is it that you're not meeting in her needs to allow her to become more amorous for you. So you deny your ability to become more. And because you're not allowing yourself to become a better person, you are going to become stuck. So what if you want to start trying to allow these emotions to grow and to live and to become so you can experience them and realize that it's not going to kill you. Well, there's a couple of different ways. I mean, you've got, first off, just give them space. Anytime you feel an emotion well up, just allow it to just be. You don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to, dive deep into the roots of it and understand the root cause of it. But you can sit there and look at it and experience it and feel it and understand why what it is that you're feeling. Give it a name. Give that emotion a name. It may not, if you really look at it, it may be sorrow at first. You may be going, well, I'm feeling sad. All right. Well, you keep looking at it. You keep examining it. You may go, well, no, it's not really sad. It's kind of more of no, it's not a melancholy. And you really start kind of looking at that emotion and examining it from all angles. You start to realize that it's not quite sadness. It's just, it's sadness light. It's sorrow. It's not the pits of, oh, woe is me sadness. It's just, I'm just feeling a little sorrowful cause cricket come into my mind. There's those different type, and you realize there are many, many different types of emotions out there. And if you can examine them and understand that, well, this is sorrow, this is what it feels like. And just, if you let it sit there and you just, celebrate the fact that you actually had a wonderful dog that was goofy and scared to death of lightning. And, when the 4th of July come around, the dog was going to be in your lap, shaking away until sometime after midnight. And if you were asleep in bed and she couldn't get up on the bed and find a place to hang out, she was going to go sit in the bathtub. There's just, you feel, you get around to understanding and why you have an emotion that you have. Now, other ways that you can actually develop a better emotional bandolier, I guess, a means of being able to just, a toolkit, an emotional toolkit. That's a better way of saying it. I was trying to think of something very manly and screw it. It's a toolkit. Is again, going through and getting some coaching. If you've got something a problem that you're running into and you're wanting to be able to fast track through and get through a set of obstacles and achieve your goals faster, a coach will help you do that. And a lot of times you can get some emotional coaching and understand, hey, I don't want to be scared to death of feeling this emotion anymore. I want to be able to get past it and allow it to be. And a coach can help walk you through what those emotional sensations are, those feelings that you're feeling, those vibrations. And doing so can actually help get you past the level of being, where you're scared. How do I get over this barrier that I'm at? I can't deal with this this fear. This is horrible. I got to go do something else. If you just step back and allow the coach to help you and to come in and coach you through the process and gives you a set of tools and skills to be able to get over that barrier, you actually find that you're getting further down the trail than if you were just going at it alone. Another way you can actually do this is just join up with a men's group. Conclave of Men is a mastermind group where we meet together and we're meeting together on Thursday evenings, and we all help each other to become the better man. And so it's a kind of men's support group, if you want to call it that. And it's doing a really good job of helping each other become the ideal man that we want to be. So there's a lot of different ways that you can actually stop denying your emotions. You can allow your emotions to be and to grow and to flourish and to bloom and become these beautiful emotions. Yeah, they may be a little messy at times, but still at the same time, that's part of the wonder and joy of being a human, is that we do have these weird, wild, odd emotions that crop up at the weirdest times. And they're things that should be celebrated and enjoyed and looked at with fascination. And I would definitely recommend that you actually go through and do that, is enjoy those emotions, enjoy those amazing sensations when you have them, because they are just something wonderfully beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let you go. Went a little long on this, to want to go ahead and say thank you very much for listening. If you are a subscriber, double thumbs up. I appreciate it. If this is your first time listening, I thank you for bringing it all the way to the end. If you like this show, I would appreciate it if you were to go over to podchaser.com/relaxedmail. Or you can go to relaxedmail.com/podchaser. Actually, that'd probably be an easier way to do it because it's with Relaxed Mail. But go to relaxedmail.com/podchaser and leave a rating and review. If you're an Apple iTunes listener or Apple podcast listener, then if you could please go in and subscribe. It would do me good. It would also help others to be able to find the show if you click the subscribe and give a little bit of social credit and social proof if you were to leave a rating and review there also. And you can get this on all the different podcatchers out there. And there's always I've got many different ways to be able to get that for you. So anyhow, I'm going to let you go. Thank you again for letting me invade your mind and talk to you for a bit. And guys, just till next week, I hope that you have yourself a wonderful week and stand strong. It gets better every day. So till then, bye.